Vitalik Buterin, the untold story of Ethereum's boy genius founder. January 19, 1994. A child is born in Kolomna, a small industrial city about 70 miles southeast of Moscow. His parents, Dmitry Buterin and Natalia Ameline, are both computer scientists in a country experiencing the chaotic aftermath of the Soviet Union's collapse. Russia is in free fall. The ruble has lost most of its value. Hyperinflation is destroying savings. Criminal gangs and oligarchs are seizing state assets. The economy has contracted by 40% in just 3 years. Millions are unemployed. The social safety net has evaporated. This is the world Vitalik Buterin enters. A world of instability, corruption, and collapsing institutions. A world where the old order has died but nothing coherent has replaced it. Where money itself seems untrustworthy. Where centralized power has failed spectacularly. His parents, watching their country disintegrate, watching their professional prospects vanish, make a decision that will change everything. When Vitalik is 6 years old, they leave Russia. They emigrate to Canada, settling in the Toronto area, seeking stability and opportunity in a country with functioning institutions and rule of law. But Vitalik carries something from Russia. Not just language or culture, but a deep skepticism of centralized authority. A suspicion of institutions. A first-hand understanding that systems can fail catastrophically, that the social contract can break, that what seems permanent can vanish overnight. This early experience of institutional collapse, of migration, of starting over in a new country with a different language and culture, shapes everything that follows. The boy who watched Russia implode will spend his life building systems designed to work without trusted authorities, without central control, without the fragile institutions that failed his family. In Canada, young Vitalik immediately stands out. Not socially. Quite the opposite. He is awkward, withdrawn, intensely focused on his own interests. He struggles to make friends. Other children find him strange. He finds other children incomprehensible. But academically, he is extraordinary. His father, a computer scientist, introduces him to programming and mathematics early. By age 7, Vitalik is creating elaborate spreadsheets filled with calculations, just for fun. He becomes obsessed with numbers, with systems, with understanding how things work at their deepest level. His teachers place him in a gifted program. Even there, he stands out. At age 10, he can add 3-digit numbers in his head twice as fast as his peers. He memorized pi to dozens of decimal places, not because anyone asked him to, but because the pattern interests him. He devours books on mathematics, computer science, and economics. He teaches himself programming languages. He spends hours alone at his computer, coding, exploring, building. His parents divorce when he is young. The split is difficult. Vitalik becomes even more withdrawn, even more focused on intellectual pursuits. School becomes his refuge. Mathematics becomes his language. Computers become his world. But he is lonely. Profoundly lonely. He has few friends. Social situations baffle him. The casual cruelty of adolescence hits hard. He is bullied. Called weird. Excluded. He retreats further into books, into code, into the abstract worlds where everything makes sense and follows rules. In 2008, when Vitalik is 14, something happens that will redirect his entire life. The global financial system collapses. Lehman Brothers fails. Banks teeter on the edge of insolvency. Governments bail out institutions deemed too big to fail. The stock market crashes. Unemployment soars. Retirement savings evaporate. Vitalik watches this from Toronto. Watches another massive institutional failure. Watches trusted systems break. Watches authority scramble. The echo of Russia in the 90s is unmistakable. Once again, the institutions everyone depends on have failed. And then, in January 2009, something new appears. A mysterious figure using the name Satoshi Nakamoto publishes a paper describing Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. 3 months later, the first Bitcoin software goes live. The network begins producing blocks. The first decentralized digital currency is born. Most people ignore it. Those who notice dismiss it as a curiosity, a toy, a scam. But Vitalik, now 15, is captivated. Here is something genuinely new. A system with no central authority. No trusted institutions. No banks. No government backing. Just mathematics, cryptography, and a network of computers enforcing rules through consensus. Bitcoin is everything his experience has taught him to want. A system that cannot be corrupted by centralized power because there is no center. Money that cannot be printed at will by governments because the supply is fixed by code. Transactions that cannot be censored because there is no central authority to do the censoring. He begins studying Bitcoin obsessively. Reading every paper, every forum post, every technical document he can find. Teaching himself cryptography, distributed systems, game theory, monetary economics. At 16, he is diving into technical complexities that professional computer scientists find daunting. His father notices the obsession. Dmitry is skeptical at first. Bitcoin seems like internet funny money. But he sees Vitalik's passion and decides to support it. He gives Vitalik a small amount of Bitcoin, just a few coins. Vitalik is thrilled. He has skin in the game now. He is part of this. But Vitalik wants more than just to own Bitcoin. He wants to contribute. He wants to be part of building this new world. And he has something to offer that the early Bitcoin community desperately needs. He can write. He can explain complex technical concepts clearly. He can make this strange new technology comprehensible to others. In 2011, at age 17, Vitalik starts writing about Bitcoin. He begins contributing articles to online forums and websites. His writing is clear, thorough, technically precise but accessible. He explains how Bitcoin works, why it matters, what it could become. A publication called Bitcoin Weekly notices his work. They offer him a job writing articles. The pay is 5 Bitcoin per article. At the time, Bitcoin is worth about $3 each. So $15 per article. Vitalik is delighted. He is being paid in Bitcoin to write about Bitcoin. This is exactly where he wants to be. But Bitcoin Weekly shuts down after just a few months. Vitalik needs another outlet. He connects with Mihai Alesi, a Romanian Bitcoin enthusiast who has an idea for a new publication. Together, they found Bitcoin magazine in 2012. Vitalik becomes the head writer. Mihai handles business operations. Bitcoin magazine becomes one of the most important early publications covering cryptocurrency. Vitalik's articles are detailed, thoughtful, technically sophisticated. He writes about protocol improvements, about the philosophy behind decentralization, about potential applications of this technology. He becomes known in the small but growing Bitcoin community. He is 18 years old. Through Bitcoin magazine, Vitalik travels for the first time to Bitcoin conferences. He meets the pioneers. The cypherpunks who dreamed of cryptographic money. The developers building the software. The entrepreneurs trying to build businesses. The libertarians and anarchists who see Bitcoin as a tool for freedom. The get-rich-quick crowd hoping to strike it rich. He is socially awkward at these gatherings. Tall, thin, pale, awkward in conversation. But when he talks about Bitcoin, about the technology, about the possibilities, people listen. His technical knowledge is deep. His thinking is clear. His vision is expansive. At 19, he is already one of the most respected voices in the space. But as Vitalik dives deeper into Bitcoin, he begins to see its limitations. Bitcoin is designed to be money. Digital gold. A store of value and medium of exchange. The protocol is deliberately simple, deliberately conservative. the scripting language that allows basic programmability is intentionally limited. This design makes sense for money. You want money to be stable, predictable, secure. You do not want complexity that could introduce bugs or vulnerabilities. Bitcoin's simplicity is a feature, not a bug. But Vitalik starts imagining what else could be built with blockchain technology. What if you could run more complex programs on a blockchain? What if you could create digital contracts that execute automatically when conditions are met? What if you could build entire organizations as code, with rules enforced by mathematics rather than law or trust? He starts proposing additions to Bitcoin. Ways to add more programmability. Ways to enable more complex applications. He writes detailed proposals. He engages with Bitcoin's core developers. They reject his ideas. Not rudely, but firmly. Bitcoin should remain simple. It should do one thing well. Money. If people want to build other applications, they can create separate blockchains for those purposes. Bitcoin will not become a general-purpose computing platform. Vitalik understands their reasoning. But he is frustrated. He can see the potential so clearly. A programmable blockchain could enable things the world has never seen. Truly decentralized applications. Smart contracts executing without intermediaries. Organizations governed by code rather than hierarchy. Financial instruments that exist as pure software. Digital worlds with their own economies. All of this is possible. But not on Bitcoin. Bitcoin has made its choice. So Vitalik faces a decision. He is 19 years old. He has been accepted to study computer science at the University of Waterloo, one of Canada's top technical universities. He is 8 months into his program. He is doing well academically. He has a clear path ahead. Get his degree. Get a job at a tech company. Have a normal, successful career. But he cannot stop thinking about the blockchain technology he envisions. The programmable blockchain. The world computer. The platform for decentralized applications. It is consuming him. He thinks about it constantly. He fills notebooks with designs. He talks to anyone who will listen about the possibilities. His father advises caution. Finish your degree, Dmitry tells him. You can work on this idea on the side. You are so close to graduating. Do not throw away your education for something so uncertain. But Vitalik makes a different choice. In 2013, after less than a year at Waterloo, he drops out. He leaves university to work on cryptocurrency full-time. He travels the world, visiting Bitcoin communities in different countries. Spain, Israel, the United States. Meeting developers. Learning. Thinking. Refining his vision. And in November 2013, at age 19, Vitalik Buterin publishes the Ethereum white paper. The paper is titled A Next-Generation Smart Contract and Decentralized Application Platform. It proposes something radically different from Bitcoin. Not just digital money, but a blockchain designed from the ground up to run any program. A global computer that no one controls. A platform where developers can build decentralized applications without permission from anyone. The core idea is simple but profound. Bitcoin has a simple scripting language that can do basic things like creating multi-signature wallets. Ethereum would have a Turing-complete programming language. You could write any program and run it on the Ethereum blockchain. The program would execute exactly as written, enforced by thousands of computers around the world, with no possibility of censorship, downtime, fraud, or third-party interference. This would enable smart contracts. Programs that automatically execute when conditions are met. You could create a will that automatically distributes assets when someone dies. A crowdfunding campaign that automatically returns money if the goal is not met. An insurance policy that automatically pays out when a flight is delayed. A prediction market where bets settle automatically based on real-world outcomes. All of this without lawyers, without banks, without any trusted intermediary. You could build decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs. Entities that exist purely as code, with rules about how decisions are made, how funds are spent, how members are added. Organizations that cannot be shut down by governments because they have no physical location, no headquarters, no central point of failure. You could create tokens representing anything. Shares in a company. Ownership of real estate. In-game items. Anything that can be owned can be tokenized. And these tokens could have programmable behavior. A token that pays dividends automatically. A token that grants voting rights. A token that changes properties based on conditions. The white paper spreads through the cryptocurrency community. The response is extraordinary. Developers see immediately what Vitalik sees. This is not just an incremental improvement over Bitcoin. This is a fundamentally new platform. A new substrate for building decentralized systems. Money starts flowing in. Not from venture capitalists. Those professional investors mostly dismiss cryptocurrency as a fringe phenomenon. Instead, the early Ethereum funding comes from the cryptocurrency community itself. From Bitcoin enthusiasts who see Ethereum's potential. From libertarians who want alternatives to government-controlled systems. From technologists who want to build on this platform. In January 2014, Vitalik announces Ethereum publicly at the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami. He is 20 years old. Still awkward on stage. Still boyish and thin. But his vision is compelling. The audience of Bitcoin enthusiasts and developers is electrified. Vitalik assembles a team. Mihai Alesi from Bitcoin magazine becomes one of the co-founders. Anthony Di Iorio, a Canadian Bitcoin entrepreneur who had funded some of Vitalik's early travel. Charles Hoskinson and Jeremy Wood, who would later leave to found Cardano. Gavin Wood, a British programmer who would write Ethereum's technical specification and develop much of the initial code. They launch a crowd sale in July and August 2014. Anyone can send Bitcoin to Ethereum's address and receive Ether, Ethereum's native cryptocurrency, in return. The price is set at 2,000 Ether per Bitcoin, or about 30 cents per Ether. The crowd sale raises 31,000 Bitcoin, worth about $18 million at the time. It is one of the largest crowdfunding events in history. But there is no product yet. No working software. Just a white paper, a vision, and the promise that this team will build it. This is an extraordinary moment. Thousands of people around the world are sending money to a group of developers they have never met, many of them in their early 20s, to build software that does not exist yet, based on a technology most people do not understand, with no legal protections or guarantees. Why would anyone do this? Because they believe in the vision. Because they have seen centralized institutions fail. Because they want alternatives. Because they think this strange new technology called blockchain could genuinely change the world. Because they are willing to bet on an awkward 19-year-old Russian-Canadian computer prodigy who dropped out of college. Now Vitalik and his team have to build it. They have the money. They have the vision. They have the community's trust. Now they have to create a working blockchain that can run any program, that can coordinate thousands of computers to execute code, that can handle complex smart contracts, that can support an entire ecosystem of applications. This is harder than anyone imagines. Much harder. The team is distributed around the world. They work remotely, coordinating through Skype calls and GitHub. They are building something that has never been built before. There are no established best practices. No textbooks to consult. No experts to call. They are inventing as they go. Gavin Wood writes the Ethereum Yellow Paper, a technical specification describing exactly how the system should work. He develops much of the initial software. The protocol is extraordinarily complex. It needs to create and manage accounts, process transactions, execute smart contracts written in multiple programming languages, store the entire state of every contract, incentivize miners to process transactions, handle network communication between thousands of nodes, upgrade without breaking existing contracts, and do all of this securely, efficiently, and reliably. There are constant debates about technical decisions. How should the virtual machine that executes smart contracts work? What programming languages should be supported? How should gas, the mechanism for paying for computation, be priced? How much data should be stored on-chain versus off-chain? What security measures are needed? How should the system upgrade? Vitalik is the intellectual leader, but he is not a dictator. He listens. He considers different viewpoints. He changes his mind when persuaded. He is open about uncertainty. This style frustrates some people who want clear, decisive leadership. But it also creates a culture where ideas are debated on merit, where the best arguments win, where dogma is questioned. The team faces internal conflicts. Some co-founders leave. Charles Hoskinson departs amid disagreements about Ethereum's direction, eventually founding Cardano. There are tensions about funding, about governance, about the balance between idealism and pragmatism. These are young people trying to build something unprecedented while managing millions of dollars and thousands of stakeholders' expectations. But the work continues. Line by line, the code takes shape. The protocol is implemented. Test networks are launched. Bugs are found and fixed. Security audits are conducted. The community grows. Developers start building applications even before the main network launches, preparing for what they believe will be a new era. On July 30, 2015, Ethereum launches. The Genesis block is mined. The network goes live. The world computer begins computing. It works. Not perfectly. There are bugs to fix, performance issues to address, features to add. But it works. You can deploy smart contracts. You can build decentralized applications. You can create tokens. The vision from the white paper is now reality. Vitalik is 21 years old. He has created something that thousands of developers will build on. Something that will enable hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity. Something that will inspire countless imitators. Something that will be studied by academics, regulated by governments, adopted by major corporations. But the work is just beginning. And the challenges ahead will be far greater than the challenges of building it. The early days of Ethereum are exhilarating and chaotic. Developers flood onto the platform. They are building things that were impossible before. Decentralized exchanges where people can trade tokens without a company running the exchange. Crowdfunding platforms where project creators cannot run off with the money. Prediction markets where outcomes settle automatically. Stablecoins pegged to dollars but living on Ethereum. Identity systems. Governance systems. Games with real economies. The price of Ether rises from around $1 at launch to over $10 by early 2016. Early investors are thrilled. The Ethereum Foundation, the non-profit Vitalik established to support development, suddenly has substantial resources. The team grows. Development accelerates. But then comes the first major crisis. The DAO. In April 2016, a group of developers launches the DAO, short for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. It is a venture capital fund implemented as an Ethereum smart contract. People can buy DAO tokens with Ether. Token holders vote on which projects to fund. When funded projects succeed, the returns flow back to token holders. All of this happens automatically, governed by code rather than a management team. The concept is revolutionary. A venture capital fund with no managers, no offices, no legal entity. Just code and the collective decision-making of token holders. This is Ethereum's promise made real. Decentralized organization at scale. The DAO raises $150 million worth of Ether in 28 days. It is the largest crowdfunding event in history. Roughly 14% of all Ether in existence is locked in the DAO contract. But the DAO's code has a vulnerability. a subtle bug that allows an attacker to drain funds from the contract. Security researchers notice the vulnerability and warn the DAO's creators. But before they can fix it, someone exploits it. On June 17, 2016, an attacker begins draining Ether from the DAO. They extract 3.6 million Ether, worth about $50 million. The cryptocurrency community watches in horror as the attack unfolds. The Ethereum blockchain is working exactly as designed, faithfully executing the code of the DAO contract. But the code has a bug. And the bug is being exploited to steal millions. Vitalik faces an impossible choice. The Ethereum protocol is working correctly. The blockchain is supposed to be immutable. Code is law. Transactions cannot be reversed. These are core principles. The entire point of blockchain is that rules cannot be changed, transactions cannot be undone, code executes as written regardless of whether we like the outcome. But if Ethereum does nothing, the attacker will walk away with $50 million of other people's money. The DAO, Ethereum's flagship application, will be destroyed. Confidence in the platform will be shattered. Many people's life savings are at stake. The community erupts in argument. One side says the blockchain must remain immutable no matter what. If we intervene now, Ethereum is no better than a traditional system where authorities can reverse transactions they dislike. The whole point is that the system enforces rules mechanically, without human judgment. If we break that principle, we break Ethereum. The other side says this is theft. The attacker exploited a bug to steal. The right thing is to return the money. Yes, immutability is important. But we are in the early days. The platform is new. Principles matter, but so do people. We cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We should do what is right and prevent this theft. Vitalik is torn. Philosophically, he believes in immutability. He understands the purist argument. But he also sees the practical reality. The DAO holds 14% of all Ether. If that much Ether is controlled by an attacker, they could dump it on the market, crashing the price, destroying confidence, potentially killing Ethereum. After intense debate, Vitalik and the Ethereum development team propose a solution. A hard fork. A change to the protocol that would effectively reverse the DAO hack by moving the stolen Ether into a recovery contract where DAO token holders could claim their funds back. This is not a simple software update. This is changing the rules of the blockchain. Rewriting history. Doing exactly what blockchain is supposed to make impossible. The community votes. Not everyone votes. Many people are indifferent or confused. But among those who care enough to vote, the majority support the hard fork. Return the money. Save the DAO. Keep Ethereum viable. On July 20, 2016, the hard fork activates. The Ethereum protocol changes. The stolen Ether is moved to a recovery contract. DAO token holders can get their money back. The theft is undone. But not everyone accepts this. A minority of the Ethereum community refuses to upgrade their software. They keep running the old version of the protocol. They believe the fork is a betrayal of blockchain principles. They argue that if Ethereum can reverse transactions now, it can reverse transactions anytime. They say the code of the DAO was the law, and the law should not be changed just because we dislike the outcome. This group continues running the original chain. They call it Ethereum Classic. The immutable Ethereum. The version that refused to reverse the theft. Ethereum splits into two incompatible chains. Ethereum, with the hack reversed. And Ethereum Classic, with the hack standing. This split is traumatic for the Ethereum community. It represents a fundamental disagreement about principles. What matters more, immutability or justice? Following rules mechanically or making exceptions for extreme cases? Being ideology pure or being pragmatic? For Vitalik, the DAO crisis is formative. He learns that principles clash with messy reality. That building decentralized systems means making governance decisions even when you want to avoid them. That being a leader means taking responsibility for hard choices that will anger people no matter what you choose. He also learns that code alone is not enough. Smart contracts need to be audited carefully. Systems need governance mechanisms for when things go wrong. Absolute immutability is impossible when humans are involved, and humans will demand intervention when stakes are high enough. The hard fork and the split with Ethereum Classic haunt Vitalik. Critics use it to attack Ethereum for years afterward. They say Ethereum is not truly decentralized if Vitalik and the Foundation can change the rules. They say the hard fork proves blockchain immutability is a lie. They mock Ethereum as Vitalik's playground where transactions are reversed when it suits the interests of insiders. These attacks sting because they contain a grain of truth. The hard fork did violate the principle of immutability. Vitalik and the development team did have enough influence to coordinate a controversial change. Ethereum is not as decentralized as its ideals suggest. But Vitalik also believes the hard fork was the right decision. It saved thousands of people from losing their money to a thief. It kept Ethereum viable. It showed the community could come together to solve problems. Yes, it violated purity. But purity that leads to disaster is worse than pragmatism that allows the system to survive and improve. He learns to live with the contradiction. To accept that building real systems means choosing between imperfect options. That principles are important but cannot be absolute. That leadership sometimes means taking actions that purists will condemn but that keep the project alive. And Ethereum does survive. After the hard fork, development continues. The price recovers. New applications launch. The ecosystem grows. Ethereum Classic remains as a philosophical alternative, a reminder of the road not taken, but Ethereum itself moves forward. By late 2016, Ethereum is showing what it can do. The platform is enabling innovations that were impossible before. Developers are building decentralized finance applications. DeFi, they call it. Financial services with no banks or traditional intermediaries. You can lend cryptocurrency and earn interest, with smart contracts matching lenders and borrowers. You can borrow against your cryptocurrency holdings without selling. You can trade assets on decentralized exchanges that no company controls. You can create synthetic assets that track the price of gold or stocks but live entirely on Ethereum. All of this is automated, transparent, and permissionless. No credit checks. No paperwork. No waiting for business hours. Just code executing smart contracts. Finance rebuilt from first principles on an open platform. Initial coin offerings, ICOs, explode. Companies and projects raise money by selling tokens on Ethereum. Instead of going to venture capitalists, they go directly to the public. Instead of equity, they offer tokens that represent utility in their platform or project. The ICO boom of 2017 is extraordinary. Hundreds of projects raise billions of dollars. Some are legitimate efforts to build decentralized applications. Many are scams. Some are well-intentioned but unrealistic. The quality ranges from brilliant to laughable. But the amount of capital flowing into Ethereum ecosystem projects is unprecedented. Billions of dollars. Thousands of developers. Enormous excitement. Mainstream media coverage. Celebrities endorsing cryptocurrency. Get-rich-quick schemes proliferating. The ICO mania resembles the dot-com boom, but moving even faster and with less regulation. The price of Ether rises from $10 at the start of 2017 to over $1,400 in January 2018. 140 times return in 12 months. Early buyers become millionaires. Ethereum's market capitalization reaches $130 billion. Vitalik's personal holdings, which he has never sold, are suddenly worth billions on paper. At 23 years old, Vitalik Buterin is a billionaire. Or would be if he sold his Ether. He does not. He is not motivated by personal wealth. He gives much of his Ether away. to charity, to projects building on Ethereum, to causes he cares about. His lifestyle remains modest. He travels constantly but stays in cheap hotels. He wears t-shirts and jeans. He owns little. His focus is building Ethereum, not getting rich from it. But the ICO bubble is unsustainable. Most of the projects raising money will fail. Most of the tokens will become worthless. And as with all bubbles, eventually it pops. In early 2018, the crash begins. The price of Ether falls from $1,400 to under $100 over the course of the year. An 85% decline. ICO funding dries up. Projects shut down. The hype evaporates. The boom turns to bust. This is devastating for many people who bought at the peak. Life savings lost. Dreams shattered. Anger at Ethereum, at Vitalik, at cryptocurrency in general. The media narrative flips from blockchain will change everything to cryptocurrency is a scam. For Vitalik, the crash is actually clarifying. The hype was uncomfortable. The get-rich-quick mentality was antithetical to what he wants Ethereum to be. The bubble brought in speculators and scammers. Now they are gone. The price crash wipes out the tourists, leaving only the true believers and serious builders. Good riddance, Vitalik thinks. Now we can focus on actually building the technology rather than pumping the price. And there is so much to build. Because Ethereum, even after years of development, still has fundamental problems. Problems that must be solved if it is going to achieve its potential. The biggest problem is scalability. Ethereum can process about 15 transactions per second. Visa processes thousands. When the network gets busy, transaction fees spike to dollars or tens of dollars per transaction. Applications become unusable. Users are priced out. Ethereum cannot scale to serve millions or billions of users with this throughput. The second problem is energy consumption. Ethereum, like Bitcoin, uses proof-of-work mining. Thousands of computers solving cryptographic puzzles to secure the network. This consumes enormous amounts of electricity. As much electricity as a small country. The environmental impact is terrible. It is also expensive and getting more expensive as the network grows. The third problem is security. Smart contract bugs continue causing losses. The DAO was just the first major incident. There are many more. Parity wallet bug locks up $150 million of Ether. Various DeFi hacks steal tens of millions. Developers are writing financial applications with billions at stake, and mistakes are costly. Vitalik and the research team have been thinking about these problems since before Ethereum launched. They have a roadmap. A plan to transform Ethereum from a slow, energy-intensive, proof-of-work chain into a fast, energy-efficient, proof-of-stake system that can scale to handle global demand. This transformation is called Ethereum 2.0. It involves fundamentally redesigning how the network operates. Moving from proof-of-work, where miners compete to solve puzzles, to proof-of-stake, where validators lock up Ether as collateral and earn rewards for processing transactions honestly. Implementing sharding, splitting the network into parallel chains that can process transactions simultaneously. Upgrading the virtual machine that runs smart contracts. Improving developer tools and security. This is not a simple software update. This is rebuilding the airplane while it is flying. Changing core protocol while billions of dollars of value sit in smart contracts that depend on the current system. Coordinating thousands of independent node operators to upgrade simultaneously. Maintaining security and decentralization while radically changing how consensus works. The challenge is enormous. Many people think it is impossible. They say Ethereum will never be able to make such fundamental changes. They say proof of stake does not work. They say sharding introduces unacceptable security trade-offs. They say the complexity will create bugs. They predict Ethereum will fail trying to upgrade and will be replaced by newer blockchains designed for scale from the beginning. Vitalik disagrees. He believes Ethereum can evolve. He believes the research team can solve these problems. He believes the benefits of proof-of-stake and sharding are worth the risk and difficulty of transitioning. But the transition takes years. Much longer than originally planned. The Ethereum 2.0 roadmap is announced in 2015. The original estimate for completion is 2017. Then 2018. Then 2019. The delays continue. Critics mock these delays. They say Ethereum is vaporware, that the promised improvements will never materialize, that Vitalik is all talk. Competing blockchains launch claiming to already have the features Ethereum is struggling to build. They attract developers and capital away from Ethereum. Vitalik is frustrated by the delays but refuses to rush. Ethereum secures too much value to risk on untested upgrades. Every change must be thoroughly researched, carefully implemented, extensively tested. Moving fast and breaking things is not acceptable when breaking things means people lose their money. So the research continues. Papers are published. Prototypes are built. Test networks are launched. The Beacon chain, the first component of Ethereum 2.0, finally launches in December 2020. 5 years after the roadmap was announced. It runs in parallel with the existing Ethereum chain, demonstrating that proof-of-stake works. Meanwhile, the Ethereum ecosystem keeps growing despite the technical limitations. DeFi explodes in 2020 and 2021. Decentralized exchanges like Uniswap process billions in volume. Lending platforms like Compound and Aave have billions deposited. Stablecoins, mostly built on Ethereum, reach over 100 billion in circulation. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, become a cultural phenomenon. Digital art, collectibles, game items, domain names, all tokenized on Ethereum. Some sell for millions of dollars. Artists earn more from NFTs than from their entire previous careers. The technology Vitalik described in the white paper is enabling new forms of digital ownership and creativity. Major corporations begin using Ethereum. JP Morgan builds a private version for interbank transfers. Microsoft offers Ethereum blockchain as a service on Azure. Visa starts settling some transactions on Ethereum. The European Investment Bank issues digital bonds on Ethereum. What began as a fringe experiment is becoming infrastructure. But success brings new challenges. Regulation becomes a major issue. Governments want to control cryptocurrency. They see threats to monetary sovereignty, to tax collection, to their ability to enforce laws. They worry about money laundering, terrorism financing, scams targeting retail investors. The regulatory pressure intensifies. China bans cryptocurrency entirely. The United States debates how to classify various tokens. Securities or commodities or currencies. Who has jurisdiction? SEC or CFTC? What rules apply to decentralized exchanges and lending platforms? To NFTs? To DAOs? Vitalik engages with regulators and policymakers. He testifies before government bodies. He writes articles explaining why cryptocurrency matters and how regulation can achieve legitimate goals without killing innovation. He argues that decentralization is not about enabling crime but about creating resilient systems that no single point of failure can break. But he also worries about regulatory capture. About governments using legitimate concerns as excuses to protect incumbent financial institutions. About rules that make it impossible for decentralized systems to operate legally. About the technology being forced back into the centralized structures it was designed to replace. The tension between decentralization and regulation is fundamental. Vitalik does not have simple answers. He believes in following the law but also in building systems that work beyond the reach of any single government. He wants to cooperate with regulators but not to compromise the core properties that make Ethereum valuable. These contradictions define much of his work. Building something radically decentralized while engaging with centralized institutions. Pursuing idealistic vision while dealing with pragmatic constraints. Maintaining principles while adapting to reality. And always, the technical work continues. Improving Ethereum. Solving scalability. Transitioning to proof of stake. Making the system more efficient, more secure, more usable. In September 2022, Ethereum finally completes the merge. The existing proof of work chain merges with the proof of stake beacon chain. Ethereum transitions to proof of stake, reducing energy consumption by 99.95% overnight. No more mining. No more massive electricity consumption. Validators instead of miners. This is one of the most complex technical transitions ever attempted in cryptocurrency. It requires coordinating thousands of node operators, updating software, testing exhaustively, ensuring billions of dollars of value remain secure through the transition. It works flawlessly. The merge happens exactly as planned. The network does not miss a beat. No funds are lost. No contracts break. Ethereum simply switches from one consensus mechanism to another and keeps running. This is an extraordinary achievement. It validates years of research. It proves that major blockchain protocols can evolve. It demonstrates that Ethereum's governance and technical community can coordinate complex changes. It eliminates the primary environmental criticism of Ethereum. But scalability remains. Ethereum is more energy efficient but still limited to roughly 15 transactions per second. The roadmap calls for sharding to multiply throughput. But sharding is even more complex than proof of stake. The timeline keeps stretching. In the meantime, Layer 2 solutions emerge. Other blockchains that settle transactions on Ethereum but process them off-chain. Rollups, they are called. Optimistic rollups and zero-knowledge rollups. These Layer 2s can process thousands of transactions per second while inheriting Ethereum's security. They provide the scaling Ethereum needs while the base layer focuses on decentralization and security. Vitalik strongly supports Layer 2s. He sees them as the right architectural solution. A decentralized, secure base layer. Specialized Layer 2s for different use cases. Applications can choose the Layer 2 that fits their needs. Everything ultimately settles on Ethereum. This design is more elegant and robust than trying to make the base layer do everything. By 2023, Ethereum is nearly a decade old. It is the second largest cryptocurrency by market value after Bitcoin. It secures hundreds of billions of dollars. It hosts thousands of applications. It employs thousands of developers. It has been declared dead countless times and keeps growing. Vitalik is 29 years old. He has spent his entire adult life building Ethereum. He has become one of the most influential people in technology. Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people. Forbes estimated his net worth in the billions, though much of that is locked in ether he will never sell. But he remains surprisingly unchanged. Still awkward in social situations. Still more comfortable discussing cryptography than small talk. Still wearing t-shirts with obscure technical jokes. Still traveling constantly, living out of a backpack, sleeping on friends' couches as often as hotels. He has no employees, no office, no corporate structure around him. He works with the Ethereum Foundation but is not formally its leader. He has enormous influence but no official power. He can propose changes but cannot force anyone to adopt them. His authority is entirely from respect and persuasion, not position. This unusual role suits him. He does not want to be a CEO making decisions for a company. He wants to be a researcher and protocol designer, contributing ideas that the community can adopt or reject. He sees himself as a steward of Ethereum, not its owner. But this creates tensions. When things go wrong, people blame Vitalik. But he cannot simply fix problems because he does not control Ethereum. When important decisions need to be made, people expect Vitalik to lead. But he tries to facilitate community consensus rather than dictate outcomes. This balance between influence and responsibility is delicate and sometimes dysfunctional. The Ethereum Foundation itself is unusual. It is a non-profit with over $1 billion in assets, mostly Ether. It funds research, development, grants to ecosystem projects, conferences, education. But it does not control Ethereum. Anyone can build on Ethereum without permission from the foundation. Anyone can propose protocol changes. The foundation is influential but not sovereign. This structure is intentional. Vitalik wants Ethereum to be credibly neutral. Not controlled by any company, government, or individual. A global public good. Infrastructure that anyone can use and build on. Like the internet itself, but for value and contracts. But achieving credible neutrality while still coordinating development is difficult. How do you upgrade a protocol that no one controls? How do you fund public good infrastructure when there is no company to capture value? How do you make decisions when consensus is required but stakeholders have conflicting interests? These questions have no perfect answers. Ethereum muddles through with rough consensus among developers, miners or validators, application developers and users. When major disagreements arise, sometimes the community splits, as with Ethereum Classic. Usually, debate leads to compromise and coordination. Vitalik's role in this process is complicated. He has more influence than anyone else but still cannot force decisions. He must persuade, not command. He must build consensus, not impose vision. This requires intellectual humility, patience, and willingness to change his mind when others make good arguments. These are not natural strengths for a brilliant technical mind accustomed to being right. But Vitalik has learned them through hard experience. Through the DAO crisis, through disagreements with co-founders, through delays and setbacks and criticism. He has learned that building decentralized systems requires giving up control, even when you created them. One of the most interesting aspects of Vitalik's thinking is how it has evolved. The Ethereum white paper was written by a 19-year-old libertarian who believed code could replace law and institutions. The Vitalik of 2023 is more nuanced. He still believes in decentralization. Still thinks cryptocurrency and blockchain enable important things. Still works to build systems resistant to centralized control. But he has seen the limitations. Seen how difficult governance is even in decentralized systems. Seen how hard it is to build secure, usable, scalable applications. Seen how much coordination and institutions matter even in supposedly trustless systems. His writing has become more philosophical. He thinks deeply about mechanism design, about governance, about coordination problems. He writes about plurality and collaboration, not just individual freedom. He engages with questions of fairness and legitimacy, not just efficiency and security. He has become less of a libertarian ideologue and more of a thoughtful technologist trying to build systems that actually work for real people with real needs. This intellectual evolution is visible in how Ethereum itself has developed. The early vision was radically decentralized applications with no human intervention. The reality is more hybrid. Smart contracts plus off-chain components. Decentralization where it matters, pragmatic centralization where it does not. Governance that combines code and social consensus. Systems that are more resilient than traditional institutions but not completely trustless. Vitalik describes Ethereum not as a finished product but as an ongoing experiment. An attempt to build better coordination infrastructure for humanity. Better ways for people to cooperate without trusted intermediaries. Better ways to organize economic activity. Better ways to govern shared resources. The experiment is far from complete. Ethereum still has major problems to solve. Scalability remains limited despite Layer 2s. Security vulnerabilities continue to cause losses. Usability is terrible for non-technical users. Regulatory uncertainty threatens the entire space. The culture can be toxic, full of scammers and speculators and maximalists who treat cryptocurrency like a religion. But Ethereum has also achieved remarkable things. It has created a financial system that operates 24/7 without banks. It has enabled artists to monetize their work in new ways. It has demonstrated that you can coordinate thousands of people to maintain critical infrastructure without any single company or government in charge. It has inspired countless developers to build decentralized applications. It has shown that alternatives to traditional institutions are possible. For Vitalik, Ethereum is both achievement and work in progress. He is proud of what has been built but impatient about what remains to be done. He is confident in the fundamental vision but uncertain about many specific decisions. He is optimistic about cryptocurrency's potential but realistic about the challenges. He continues working on hard problems, improving consensus mechanisms, researching privacy technologies, designing better governance systems, thinking about how to make Ethereum more accessible and useful for regular people, not just technologists and speculators. He travels constantly, speaking at conferences, meeting with researchers, engaging with communities around the world. He spends time in Singapore, in Berlin, in Zug, Switzerland, in San Francisco. He has no permanent home. Ethereum is his home. The community building it is his family. But this lifestyle has costs. Vitalik has few close personal relationships outside cryptocurrency. He has never married, has no children. He is lonely sometimes, though he rarely admits it. The intense focus that enabled him to create Ethereum has left little room for normal human life. He is aware of this. In interviews, he sometimes expresses ambivalence about whether the trade-offs were worth it. He has achieved extraordinary things but missed ordinary experiences. He has changed the world but at significant personal cost. He is famous in his niche but unknown to most people. He has billions in paper wealth but lives modestly and gives most of it away. Would he do it all again? He says yes, but with some wistfulness. If he had known at 19 what the next decade would demand, would he still have dropped out to pursue this strange vision? Probably. But maybe he would have done some things differently. Maybe made more time for relationships. Maybe been less obsessive. Maybe achieved better balance. But balance was never Vitalik's way. He is an extremist by temperament. All or nothing. Completely focused or completely uninterested. This intensity is both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. It enabled him to create Ethereum when a more balanced person would have stayed in school and gotten a normal job. But it also means he struggles with moderation in all aspects of life. Looking forward, what is Vitalik's vision for Ethereum's future? He wants Ethereum to become true world computer he described in the white paper. Able to process millions of transactions per second across all its layers. Secure enough to handle trillions of dollars. Private enough to protect sensitive applications. Usable enough that normal people can interact with it without thinking about blockchain. He wants Ethereum to enable new forms of organization and coordination. DAOs that actually work at scale. Voting systems that are fair and resistant to manipulation. Identity systems that respect privacy while enabling accountability. Financial systems that serve the unbanked. Property registries that are tamper-proof. Supply chains that are transparent. He wants Ethereum to help address global coordination problems. Climate change. Pandemic response. Resource allocation. International cooperation. He sees blockchain not just as financial technology but as social technology. Infrastructure for humans to coordinate and cooperate without requiring trusted institutions. These ambitions are enormous. Many people think they are impossible or naive. They point to cryptocurrency's failures and scandals and limitations. They say the technology has been around for over a decade and still has minimal real-world adoption beyond speculation. They argue that trusted institutions, for all their flaws, work better than trustless code. Vitalik acknowledges these criticisms but remains committed to the vision. Yes, current systems are imperfect. Yes, adoption is slower than he hoped. Yes, there have been many failures. But he sees progress. He sees real applications being built. He sees problems being solved. He sees the community learning and improving. And he sees no alternative. Traditional institutions have deep problems. They are often corrupt, inefficient, exclusionary. They fail catastrophically, as Vitalik witnessed in Russia and in the 2008 financial crisis. They serve powerful interests more than ordinary people. They adapt slowly and resist accountability. Blockchain technology, for all its current limitations, offers an alternative. Not a perfect alternative. Not a replacement for all institutions. But an option. A choice. A way to build systems that are more transparent, more resilient, more accessible. Systems where power comes from code and consensus, not from who controls the servers or who has government backing. This vision is what drives Vitalik. Not wealth. Not fame. Not power. But the belief that better systems are possible. That technology can empower people. That decentralization can create more fair and robust coordination. Whether Ethereum achieves this vision remains to be seen. The technology is still young. The challenges are immense. The competition is fierce. The regulatory environment is uncertain. Many things could go wrong. But Vitalik has already achieved something remarkable. He took an idea, a vision of a programmable blockchain, and turned it into reality. He assembled a team and a community. He navigated technical challenges and political conflicts. He survived multiple cryptocurrency winters. He built something that has lasted nearly a decade and continues growing. Ethereum exists because Vitalik Buterin, at 19 years old, had the audacity to imagine it and the determination to build it. Because he dropped out of college against his father's advice. Because he convinced thousands of people to believe in his vision. Because he wrote code and research papers and articles explaining that vision. Because he kept working when the work was hard and the criticism was harsh and the path forward was unclear. Whatever happens to Ethereum in the decades ahead, that achievement cannot be taken away. Vitalik Buterin took blockchain from being just digital money to being a platform for decentralized applications. He showed what was possible. He inspired countless others to build. He created infrastructure that hosts hundreds of billions in economic activity. He is 30 years old now. If he lives a normal lifespan, he has another 50 years. What will he do with them? Will he continue leading Ethereum development, refining and improving it until his vision is fully realized? Will he move on to new projects, new challenges, new ways to reshape how humans coordinate? Will he step back, let others lead, finally make time for life beyond cryptocurrency? He does not know. He takes it year by year, problem by problem. Right now, there is so much work to do. Scaling to be improved. Security to be hardened. Governance to be refined. New applications to be enabled. The work is never done. There is always more to build. But whatever path Vitalik takes, his place in history is secure. He is the creator of Ethereum, the second most important blockchain in the world. He is one of the key figures who took cryptocurrency from a fringe experiment to a serious technology. He is a researcher and thinker who has contributed important ideas about consensus, governance, and coordination. He is a leader who built a global community around a shared vision. Future historians studying the early 21st century will examine how information technology transformed human society. They will look at social media, at artificial intelligence, at blockchain. And when they study blockchain, they will study two names above all others. Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious creator of Bitcoin who disappeared. And Vitalik Buterin, the awkward Russian-Canadian teenager who imagined Ethereum and then spent his life building it. The full story of Ethereum is still being written. The platform continues evolving, facing new challenges, reaching for new capabilities. The ecosystem continues growing, enabling new applications, reaching new users. The vision of a decentralized world computer remains partly aspirational, partly realized, fully uncertain in its ultimate form. But the story of Vitalik Buterin, the human being at Ethereum's center, reveals universal themes. It shows what one person with vision and determination can achieve. It shows the costs of single-minded focus. It shows the tension between ideals and reality. It shows how youthful audacity sometimes achieves what mature caution considers impossible. Vitalik took his experience of institutional collapse in Russia and his intellectual passion for systems and cryptography and his chance encounter with Bitcoin and synthesized them into something new. Something that did not exist before he imagined it. Something that tens of thousands of people now work on. Something that millions of people use. Something that may, perhaps, contribute to building the more decentralized, more fair, more resilient world he envisions. Whether that world will come to pass, whether Ethereum will be the platform that enables it, whether blockchain technology will prove as transformative as its advocates believe, only time will tell. But Vitalik Buterin has dedicated his life to finding out. And in doing so, he has already changed the world in ways both subtle and profound, ways we are still beginning to understand, ways that will ripple through technology and society for decades to come.